Welcome to 214 Square. It's April 12th, and today we are talking about immigration and Canada. Please be aware that today I am using an AI voice to spare my own. We are now 16 days away from Election Day in Canada. Still leading in current polls is Prime Minister McCartney's Liberal Party. Since last episode, the Liberals gained 2%, now having 45%. Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party only had small improvements, 39%. The People's Party of Canada, PPC, lost a percentage point. No changes for New Democrat, Bloc Québécois, and the Green Party. Polls, since campaigns start mid-March, show that Conservatives and Liberals are playing in their own league in comparison to the other parties. Conservatives were able only once to narrow the gap to the Liberals at the end of March, as how average polls show. Next week, we will again include polls from the other provinces in Canada. In 2023, Canada welcomed 471,000 new permanent residents. These are individuals who met Canada's requirements to become permanent residents through, for example, the Express Entry Visa program, who were provincial nominee or, for example, secured a startup visa nomination. To secure such a visa, every immigrant must fulfill a couple of requirements, like passing a language test in English or French, show evidence for significant work experience, a degree from a university that is accepted in Canada, and more. Most important is a Labour Market Impact Assessment, or LMIA. Canadian authorities don't want to let in immigrants for jobs a Canadian or legal resident can do, and is willing to do. Since 1871, 5 years after Canada was founded, the percentage of foreign-born residents in Canada never dropped below 13%. The highest share of foreign-born residents was from 1911 till 1931, with slightly more than 22%. Since 1991, the share of foreign-born residents is increasing steadily from 16% to more than 23% in 2021. Let's have a look on the demographics of immigrants in Canada. First, I will explain the 3 categories of immigrant generations provided by Statistics Canada. The first-generation immigrant is born outside Canada. They can be Canadian if naturalized. Second-generation immigrants are children of immigrants with at least one foreign-born parent. The child was born in Canada. Third generation and more means that the individual is born in Canada like their parents. At least one grandparent was born outside Canada. With this definition, let's see how many people in Canada have an immigration background. Looking at our pie chart, we can see easily that 44% of the population has a background as first- or second-generation immigrant. 56% of the Canadian population have at least a third-generation immigration background. Let's have a look on the religion of Canada's immigrants. The dominating religions, beliefs, and ideas are Buddhism, with 50%, Christianity, 27%, and atheism, or secular perspectives, with 17%. Though Canada is witnessing an influx of immigrants from Asia, most people are identifying themselves culturally or ethnically as Europeans, almost 20 millions, then North Americans, over 10 millions. Over 7 millions are identifying themselves as Asians. In 2021, 27 million people in Canada were Canadians by birth. 6.1 million people were Canadians by naturalization. And then we see the most common citizenships of people living in Canada. Over 700,000 had an Indian passport, followed by China PR, over 540,000, and the USA with 460,000. Other top 10 passports in Canada are the United Kingdom, the Philippines, Pakistan, France, Iran, Italy, and Nigeria. The official languages in Canada are English and French. French is the official language in the province of Quebec. Immigrants who came to Canada between 2016 and 2021 spoke the following languages at home: Arabic with over 111,000, Mandarin, also called Chinese, with 92,000, Tagalog or Filipino, with 89,000 speakers, followed by Punjabi with over 70,600 speakers. Other languages were Spanish, Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Russian, and Iranian Persian. Now we want to analyze the economic situation of immigrants in Canada. Here we have the employment rates for permanent residents, once called landed immigrants and individuals born in Canada. Canada-born individuals are always those who have a high employment rate of at least 81%. They are followed by immigrants who came to Canada over a decade ago with a rate of around 80%. In the 70% range are immigrants who came between 10 to 5 years ago. Lowest values are coming from new immigrants who arrived in Canada 5 or less years ago with values of around 68% till 2015. Then the numbers improved to around 76%. We see that dent in 2007, respectively, 8, the global financial crisis, and in 2020, the beginning of the COVID pandemic. The unemployment rate of Canada-born individuals is generally the lowest one, with around 6% to 7%, but slightly touching the line of immigrants who arrived in Canada more than 10 years ago. Worst performers are immigrants who arrived 5 or less years ago with around 10%. All groups were affected by the global financial crisis and the pandemic. However, new immigrants took longer to recover. Were unemployment rates for Canada-born individuals and immigrants very close together? Are there bigger differences when we look at female unemployment? Unemployment for female individuals born in Canada is usually hovering around 5%, but recently improved to 3.5%. Immigrants who arrived over 10 years ago have an unemployment rate of around 5% to 7%. The next cohort of those who are in Canada 5 to 10 years ago have a rate of today 7.8%. Highest not crisis-related value 11%. Highest values again from new female immigrants with around 15%. Clearly visible is that Canada-born individuals were less affected by unemployment during the pandemic than immigrants. Immigrants usually need at least a high school degree when they wish to immigrate to Canada. But sponsored immigration can help individuals without a degree to immigrate. Canada-born individuals without any degree are here performing equally to most immigrants, except from those who arrived 5 years or earlier with a rates between 11% and 16%. Canada-born individuals are ranging around 10.5%. Best performers are immigrants who are in Canada for more than a decade. The numbers are different for those who have an academic degree, like a bachelor's degree. Canada-born individuals usually perform better with values of around 3 to 4% unemployment, followed by those who are in Canada for a decade at around 5.7%. Worst performers are again new immigrants who arrived no later than 5 years ago, with values between 7.5 and 50%. In comparison to the unemployment rate of individuals without a degree, we can see a smoother line for those with an academic degree. The income of immigrants shows a clear advantage for principal applicants of economic immigrants, those who applied, for example, through express visa. Their average income was around 54,000 Canadian dollars in 2018 and improved to over 63,000 Canadian dollars in 2022. As a reminder, the average income of a person in Canada, citizens and residents, was around $47,500. Far off, but close together, are immigrants sponsored by their family, dependents of principal applicants, and then refugees with an income ranging from $33,000 to $39,000 in 2022. Unemployment rate shows that immigrants who came from Africa, remember that, for example, Nigeria is among the top 10 passports immigrants hold, have a higher unemployment rate, 10% to 12%, than North Americans with round 5%. The number of unemployed North Americans increased since January 2025. Europeans have the second lowest, now lowest unemployment rate, and Latin Americans and Asians are close together, around 7.5%. It's thus no surprise that Europeans currently have the highest employment rate among immigrants in Canada, with around 86%, compared to Latin Americans with around 81%, Asians around 80%, North Americans recently falling from 80 to 78%, and Africans with around 76 to 77%. In the next episode, we will talk about housing and crime. The episode will probably be shorter based on availability and usefulness of data. And this is Christian, who has written the script so that this AI voice can talk to you today. He is a dropout from Georgia Institute of Technology in Georgia, USA. He holds an executive MBA from Quantic School of Business and Technology in Washington, D.C., USA, and a bachelor's degree from Bielefeld University in Bielefeld, as well as several certificates from Corporate Finance Institute in Vancouver, British Columbia. If you have enjoyed this episode, please like this episode and subscribe to the channel. See you next week. Oh, and by the way, my name's Bill. Thank you for watching.